Hey everybody, time for another game theory video. If you like the videos, like, sub, silly comment, share, support the channel if you can. I appreciate it. Thanks. Super chat, PayPal, Patreon, super comment the video. Want to help me buy a tiramisu for dessert? You can do so if you please. So continuing this discussion about tag team games and actually coming up with new perspectives on fighting games. I've said so many times before that tag team games are actually the easiest to come up with new perspectives and to bring new stuff to fighting games, right? And I've said many times before that Dragon Ball FighterZ is such a huge drop ball because Dragon Ball FighterZ has many fundamental mechanics that actually also allow there to be new stuff in a fighting game that is not normally possible. New archetypes, new moves, etc. This is an extreme rarity for a genre like fighting games, right? Tag team games are the easiest things to come up with stuff, right? And I want to use some of these examples that I've talked about that Dragon Ball FighterZ should have done to progress the genre, right? So already we're looking at this. Hopefully you understand. There's a thing called vanishing in Dragon Ball FighterZ, right? A fundamental mechanic. And of course, we also know that Dragon Ball FighterZ is a tag team game. So we have fundamental mechanics and we have a tag team game. These are two good things if we're actually trying to create something new in a fighting game, right? So what I would say I would do for a character like Raditz, right? I'm going to blow your mind just showing you how easy this is, right? To come up with actual new stuff in a fighting game for something like a tag team game, right? Well, what is one of the things that Raditz does, right? He looks at his scouter and he automatically sees that the person might be behind him or something like that. We can actually combine this idea with something like Vanish up here and give him a unique special that affects the actual meta of the game, right? Because vanishing is part of the meta, right? It is also how you combo, right? So what if we were to say when Raditz does he has a special move, whatever, he touches his little earplug, whatever it is, the scouter thing. And this makes it so whenever the guy vanishes, you automatically do this back kick. Guy vanishes, he tries to hit you behind him because he vanishes. Maybe it's even a combo. Hi-ya, look at that karate kick right there. And Raditz is like, boom. You can tell I'm a great artist, right? It looks like he's farting on him, right? Just like we already have something like this in a game. What about something like this? We know that when you're Android 18, if somebody's going to call an assist, it's automatically programmed if you do this special move that this Android comes out and he shoots a laser beam on you, right? So we know something like this kind of exists. We could program something like this into the game that whenever another character vanishes, even if it's a combo, Raditz, if he has this stocked up, let's say, a scouter sort of button press stock, he automatically counters it, right? Can you imagine like the different meta for this? Like some combos you might be like, whoa, I don't know if I can finish Raditz now if he has this sort of scour thing stocked because I was planning on doing a Vanish combo. Just like he has the double Sunday super, right? Imagine Raditz, imagine you call the assist. We know there's already a move like this, like Android 18. Imagine you have a scouter with a different button if you press it. This makes it so whenever the guy does a tag team, whenever the guy calls an assist, you automatically teleport behind them and boom, you shoot your little pink purple laser beam of death on them, right? Hell, maybe he even has a level 3 where when you do a level 3, he jumps up in the air, right? And one laser beam goes towards the guy on the screen. One laser beam goes to the other people on the outside of the screen that aren't even tagged in. And it only does blue life. And you could say that it's the weakest level 3 in the game. Maybe Raditz's level 3 only does 30% life. But you know what it does? It does 30% life to the character on screen. And it does 30% blue life to the characters that aren't on the screen. Do you see we've automatically already, now this is a character again, this is something that cannot exist in anything else besides a tag team game, right? This is also something that is using the fundamental ideas that is already in Dragon Ball FighterZ, and it's actually respecting the lore. Do you see? This is why, and I'm going to show other examples. This is a clear example of why it is so easy to come up with new ideas in a tag team game, because tag team games allow you to do something wacky and weird that is not possible in any other fighting game. If Dragon Ball FighterZ was a one-on-one game, guess what? You would probably say if Raditz is going to be in the game, he might be like a Dan character, right? Maybe he's going to be like Dan. He's just going to be terribly and shitty. But you know what we can do because it's a tag team game? We can make Raditz still quotation marks weaker. But you know what? There's a little bit of an extra mind game here, because guess what? The normal combo flow of the game potentially might not work on him if he has some scouter presses stocked. Just like he can actually sort of chip damage people that aren't even in the match. So although he's a weaker character, he requires a different strategy, right? It isn't that one of the best things that I talk about, and I use Super Turbo as an example so many times. Super Turbo, thinking about all the different kind of counter characters in that game, right? And yet it's a game that has survived for 30 years and every character is played at the highest level. We can create these weird sort of counter characters and these specific matchup knowledges in a tag team game with stuff that can only be in a tag team game. And it's using fundamental stuff that is only possible in a Dragon Ball FighterZ game. Continuing. How can we make charging useful, right, in Dragon Ball FighterZ? Because it's not something you see very often. But what if we want to make Vegeta's final explosion? And I've used this idea many times before. How can we put a move that is a suicide move in a game and actually make it make sense? And do you want to know what? Guess what? It actually can make sense because it's a tag team game. We can create a brand new kind of special move that can only exist in a tag team game, right? So example, let's say Vegeta's final explosion. Let's say it's a level 5 super, right? It's a level 5 super with a big charge up, but guess what? When he does it, not only does Vegeta die, but it does 50% life to whoever is on the screen. No matter what they do, it's unblockable. And you might be like, Clayton, that sounds cheap. You're telling me that Vegeta can do a 50% life anywhere on the screen and it's unblockable. How do you make this work? Well, guess what? Because it's a tag team game. So let's say this. Let's look at some of the properties. And we're using the properties of the game to show how this actually works, right? And this is why I say so many times that Dragon Ball FighterZ is a drop ball, because it actually has fundamental system mechanics that allow you to create new character archetypes and new moves. And it's a tag team game. So if you know Dragon Ball FighterZ, there are beam clashes, right? Generally, they don't do anything, although there is a little bit of a buggy stuff that I showed right when the game came out that you actually can combo after beam clashes. You can freeze the guy, but that's kind of here nor there. But generally speaking, there's beam clashes, right? If it's the same super, right? Level of super, right? So let's say that Vegeta, when he does the final explosion, when he starts going into this spiel of his, he starts to talk, right? It's a slow charge up super, but he has this little lightning effect around him, right? And let's say it counts as like a level 1 fireball around him, a level 1 super, right? So if you were trying to do a super fireball to knock him out of it, it's just going to beam clash. It's not going to knock him out of it. But what did we say? We said that there's charging in this game. So what if we have a situation where like Vegeta, starts talking and maybe it's about a 3 or 4 second speech, right? And you might be like, oh shit. Well, technically, guess what? I can charge in the game. So if I charge up, I can charge up to a level 3 if I have time. And then I can, quotation marks, waste my level 3 to blast through this little barrier he has around him and kill him, right? Now we have a little bit of a meter management and we have this sort of charge up thing actually becoming a factor in the matchup. But guess what? This even goes further, because guess what? Let's say there's hard knockdowns in Dragon Ball FighterZ, right? Let's say during the hard knockdown, the guy starts to slide. You knock them down with your heavy in the air, whatever it is. They start to tumble, blah, 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 blah. Now, by the time they stand up, guess what? They don't have time to charge up. So either they have to risk their level 3, if they had a level 3, to level 3 through his move, or they have to be like, oh shit, do I waste my point character losing 50% of his life, Or do I tag into one of my other teammates and let them take the 50%? Do you see we've added a new meta that has never been done in a fighting game ever before? And it's exactly because it's a tag team game, and it's actually using the fundamental mechanics that are only possible in Dragon Ball FighterZ. And it's respecting the lore of the game. Can you imagine like a meta like this? This is crazy. Even something as simple as character archetypes. I've talked about Dragon Ball FighterZ, why it is such a drop ball. It is so hard to put new stuff, new perspectives in an actual fighting game, right? Unless the system is inherently different, like Dragon Ball FighterZ, right? We could have a character like Ryu, a Shoto, or a Zangief character, right? But what does Dragon Ball FighterZ do, right? It actually has this fundamental sort of idea of fireballs versus reflecting and homing dash. There's this sort of tug of war back and forth, right? Fireballs versus homing dash and reflecting, right? Because of this, we actually have moves that are not possible in any other fighting game. Do you think that you could have a move like Vegeta's Banshee Blast in any other fucking fighting game? A fucking full screen spread shot laser beam move, right? But you know why we can have a move like this in Dragon Ball FighterZ? Because guess what? The fundamental concepts of the game allow it, right? This is why I said I would have actually expanded on this, because now we can have characters like Vegeta, a character that makes you have to use the game system. That's why I said I would actually have Vegeta have an EX Banshee Blast that counts as a laser beam to have a little bit more of a meta there, right? But remember, when one thing is strong, something else will become strong as well if the game is well designed, right? So imagine in this theoretical version of Dragon Ball FighterZ, we have these characters, these new archetypes like Vegeta, that there's actually quite a bit of focus on, right? Because they really abuse the game system, so to speak, and that you have to use the game system to beat them. But because of stuff like that, because we have moves, say like Trunks has changed the future that automatically beats fireballs, maybe in this theoretical game, guess what? Trunks is a counter character to Vegeta because change the future automatically beats all fireballs, right? Nature will find a way, right? So again, we have a new character archetype like Vegeta, right? Because of the game system. And then if we wanted to expand this, and this is again why I say the game is such a drop ball, they should have added a couple of, let's say, vacuum cleaners. Maybe you have a character like Android 17, Super Android 17. Instead of having this reflect, let's say that he has a vacuum cleaner reflect. Does that look like a vacuum cleaner? He sucks up fireballs, right? So does Dr. Gero. He's another bit of a puppet character, but guess what? He also has, when he reflects, he has the vacuum cleaner reflect. But you know what? Maybe something a little bit different about this is maybe that means they can't reflect normal moves. Maybe if they try to reflect normal moves, they get hit. Who knows, right? So that makes them super strong versus this one new character archetype, potentially like Vegeta, but weaker to a character that does not use as many fireballs, right? Just like we have fucking, what's his name? The Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta. The only character in the game that uses Dragon Balls. Why don't you have another character that does it? So maybe you could have a three character team. You could have an Omega Shenron, right? Say Omega Shenron is in the game, and he also is one of the characters that can gain Dragon Balls. Say, again, just putting it out there, say Bulma. Bulma is another character that can get Dragon Balls, right? So you have Bulma. And say that Bulma is another character that can't reflect moves, but she brings out some Capsule Corp laser gun vacuum cleaner that sucks up fireballs. So Bulma can also be, what Bulma should we use? We'll use the Super Saiyan original, the Frieza arc, the first Frieza arc Bulma, right? I've watched Dragon Ball FighterZ before. Say Bulma is a character that also has a vacuum cleaner. I swear I respect women. This was not on purpose. Bulma's just vacuum. She just loves vacuuming. Get back to the kitchen, Bulma. Bulma's not a character. Is a character that's a vacuum cleaner character, and she's a Dragon Ball character. Hopefully what I'm getting at. That's why I say I don't respect stuff like the 2XKO developers talking about how amazing they are, how they're bringing all this new stuff. Because guess what? It's a tag team game. It's easier to do new stuff. I don't see some foundational new shit that they've done that's never been done before. I don't see new perspectives being brought on games. And that's the kind of stuff that interests me, right? And that's why I always say that it's so much easier. Again, you're like, I mean, look at this. I'm just some dude. I'm some fucking dude. Do you want me to use my ASMR voice? Yeah? You want me to talk like this? Yeah? Okay, yeah. Get out your fucking wallet. Donate to the channel right now. Yeah. Pull it out. Pull it out and buy me a fucking tiramisu. Anyway, I'm just some dude talking about video games, right? But unfortunately, I know what I'm talking about. I am the same guy that unfortunately has... sometimes I wonder if some people don't watch my game theory videos as much as the combo video stuff, because maybe there's this sort of insecurity. Of course there's insecurity, right? Maybe there's this like insecurity that, Clayton, maybe if deep down, even though I said he faked everything, I know he finds all these combos, but surely when Clayton does game theory videos, he must not know anything about fighting games. He must just be getting lucky when he discovers all this stuff before anyone else. Unfortunately, I'm pretty creative. I understand how video games work. And I've said this many times before, it's easier to come up with new stuff for tag team games. And Dragon Ball FighterZ is such a drop ball because the system, not only is it a tag team game, but the fundamental system allows new archetypes and allows new ideas. And unfortunately, it was not properly nurtured. Remember, if you like the videos, like, sub, the comment, share, support the channel if you can. Appreciate it. Thanks. The end.